Hello again, it's me, and here's the continuing story of one Charles Siskin and the Thousand Natural Shocks, written by me. And here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, Chapter 2. One of the nicest things I can say about my parents is that they leave me alone. I mean, they don't neglect me, they just respect that I like to be on my own. Okay, that's not exactly true. My dad, Peter, leaves me alone because he doesn't understand me any more than I understand him. I think for him it's a lot like I'm a foreign exchange student who lives in his house. He's nice to me, he says good morning and drives me places. Like he used to drive me to dance class twice a week, but we have a rather formal acquaintanceship. My mother, Adriana, has always gotten me. After I left the clingy stage of childhood, I think she just totally understood my need for privacy. When you are an only child, the relationship you have with your parents is much more like being equals. At least it was for me. When my parents had friends over, it was completely normal for me to sit with all of them in the living room, sipping a beverage and listening to the conversation, even as far back as age 6 or 7. These were some people who made sense to me. They talked about interesting things and told great stories and fascinating jokes. I suppose it's just one more thing that makes me totally uncool to kids at my age. I don't hate my parents or adults in general. One of my favorite adults is my mother's friend Sammy, short for Samantha, Della Franca. Sammy is very cool and talks to me like she would any other adult. She wears big chunky jewelry and smells like Chanel No. 5 and Pall Malls. One night during the fall of my 8th grade year, Sammy came over to visit. My mother and Sammy sat in the living room drinking glasses of Cabernet and smoking and talking about people they knew. I sat with them drinking Dr. Pepper out of a wine glass. So then I asked her how she knew that Trudy's husband was cheating on her, said Sammy. And she said she had seen them together at Pancho's Mexican buffet, sitting in the corner and holding hands and kissing on each other like there was no tomorrow. Kidding, my mother replied, so engrossed in the story it looked like her eyes were about to drop out of her skull. That's what she said. So then I asked her if Mario had ever cheated on her. No, you didn't. I did, I said. So Juanita, do you think Mario has ever dipped his pen in another inkwell? Sammy brayed out a single sharp laugh. Ha! Sammy, you didn't. Of course I did. And she said that she knew she could trust him completely. How would she know that? She said, because he was deathly afraid of getting the clap. Oh my God. They both burst into hysterical giggles. Then I asked her if she had ever. Sammy, you didn't. And do you know what she said? Sammy choked on her laughter, then took a swig of her wine. She said, I would never cheat on Mario. I'm not that type of woman. I was a virgin when I married him, and I don't know if they come in sizes. They both erupted in howls of laughter. Sammy spilled some wine on the coffee table and choked out an apology between brays of laughter, which my mother waved her hand in a gesture that said, don't worry about it. After a couple of minutes, they were able to compose themselves. Sammy lit up a fresh cigarette and sat back on the sofa, tucking her feet under her. So, Sammy said, exhaling a long string of smoke. What else is new? What's cracking, Egghead? She called me Egghead because I read a lot. Absolutely nothing, I said. School, 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 blah, blah, blah. What are you talking about, blah, 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 my mother said. It's that kind of attitude that's affecting your grades. Are you having problems with your grades? Said Sammy. No, my grades are fine. Your grades are average, my son, and you are anything but average. Of course his grades are average, said Sammy. He's in that crap tub of a school. He's not being challenged. My mother and I looked at each other. Sammy tapped her ashes in the ashtray with a gesture that punctuated her typical ability to cut right through to the heart of the matter. Do you think that's true, Charles? My mother said. I don't know. I never really thought about it. Of course it's true, said Sammy. The boy's a genius, aren't you, Egghead? She winked one false eyelashed eye at me. What you should do is send him to that Loyola High School downtown. It's the best private school in the city. And just like that, Sammy had presented me with what I thought would be the answer to all my problems. Get the hell out of public school. Go to a private school where there are students who actually care about learning, and get away from all those jerks who made my life miserable. Loyola was going to be the answer to all of my problems. So I asked my parents if I could go to Loyola. "What for?" said my dad. "So I can get a decent education," I semi-lied. "Well, it would be a little inconvenient," my mother said. "How would we get you there? It's so far from the house." "How much does this school cost?" my dad asked, his eyes narrowed to slits. "I don't know," I said, "but I'll bet if I went there, I could get into any college in the country." He said. "That's a good point," my mother said. "Besides, if I don't get a decent education, how the hell am I going to get a great job and make millions of dollars and take care of both of you when you can't feed or dress yourselves?" They were both silent for a moment. "Your father and I will talk it over." After a couple of days, they broke the good news to me. I would go to Loyola the following year. And so, at the tender age of 13, I found myself facing high school. I did all the research myself. I signed up for the entrance exam, aced it, and just like that, I was out of public school hell and off to St. Ignatius Loyola High School. As far as I was concerned, this meant that I was about to start a new life, a better life. A life that didn't consist of names and ridicule and being surrounded by alien dinks. St. Ignatius would be my salvation. Right?